Sometimes when you've been working on an area for quite a while, like this face, for instance, you can easily start to overwork it and over-render it. Uh, and a good trick is to save your painting in versions. It enables you to go back to an older version and copy and paste back in elements of that, and then splitting the difference using the opacity tool. You can just sort of try to bring back some of the original sort of freshness of the looser earlier work, um, while still retaining some of the detailing that you've done. It's quite a good trick, and again, it's also just another good reason for saving things in versions, just to allow you to go back and forth a wee bit. Okay, so I'm just having a bit of a play around with going back to the hair again now. Um, so obviously the plan is to sort of emphasize her fox nature by giving her these sort of pointed ear designs to the top of her hair. But I'm quite interested in sort of continuing to keep trying to come up with something a bit more unique and different with her hair rather than just the shape. One thing I thought of might be quite interesting, again, to try to play to the idea of her being potentially quite an aggressive and dangerous animal at some level, is to potentially look at creating a fringe which is maybe plaited or woven to points, which each one of these points, it just about feels like a more of a mouth or teeth. But again, it's these pointed, sharp objects help sort of give the impression of a more aggressive and dangerous look. And it's quite unusual rather than just having a straight cut fringe or pulled back. Just adding that additional level of ornamentation to her helps build a more interesting character, and also again helps bring added focus to her head. So again, looking at I quite often look through fashion sites for ideas for hairstyles. Sometimes I just play with shapes and see what sort of what comes up and what works. And again, this is what I'm pretty much doing here is just playing with shapes and seeing what level of frequency and how high and low these shapes need to be to get them to work. Um, but I'm always sort of thinking at some level about functionality. I suppose that's part of being a concept designer, is that a lot of the things that I design ultimately need to be built or work beyond just a 2D drawing. So when I'm designing anything, just using this hairstyle as an example, um, I really am thinking about how it actually functions as well. Are these sort of tooth-like shapes, are they going to be woven or plaited? Are they in fact part of a headdress and not hair at all? And so I'm thinking about those kind of questions when I'm working it up. But it starts with a shape and getting a strong shape, and then you can start working out the resolving the details and the function as you go along. Okay, so at the moment I'm returning to the site of what's going to be an ongoing battle with trying to get the white fox's face looking sufficiently foxy and beautiful. So much of a good illustration hangs on the ability to to draw and paint a great face. It's especially in paintings where you're trying to achieve a degree of realism. You The whole thing will fall apart no matter how well the rest of the painting might be rendered and conceived and the idea behind it. But ultimately, if the faces are not correct and not right, the whole thing will probably fall down. And it's frustrating because we all know what faces look like, and someone with that looking at this picture that has no artistic background whatsoever will still be able to recognize and see that the face is not right just because we're used to looking at faces every day. And faces are horrifically complicated. And I think it's just one of those things sometimes it goes easily, and if you've got good reference, you can get it down pretty quick. And other times you can really fight with it, and a lot of it just comes down to experience. And I'll freely admit that I certainly struggled with her face, whereas Sherlock Holmes's face actually was a bit of a walk in the park actually compared to her, because she's so smooth, and so it's got to be so beautiful. You can't hide in a craggy face like Sherlock Holmes. You can't. You've got to be bang on. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually going back to my original pencil drawing, and actually just reintroducing that, and just double checking that as I've painted quickly and loosely, building up the face, that I haven't started to drift off target a wee bit, and I have, and so it's one of those things where you just sort of need to keep working at it. And obviously I'm also still designing as I go. I'm still trying to work out how full the lips need to be, how saturated the colour. If they're really red saturated lips, then that's going to pull a lot of attention, especially in a white face. Whereas if the lips are quite white, perhaps even painted white, then that's going to pull attention away from the mouth towards the eyes. And in fact, that's another issue. I think each illustration has its own challenges, and one of the challenges with this particular face is that as she's being predominantly painted white, if you bring in too many stronger tones, you lose that sort of white mask-like appearance. And in the course of this, you'll see me going back and forth, trying to get the level of balance, so that it looks like she's got a painted white face, but still has tonal structure. One of the things I have employed as a bit of a cheat is I've actually used the Chinese opera singers would employ sometimes a red or magenta paint to around the eyes and maybe other parts of the face, so their whole face is not completely white. What I'm doing here is I'm using that red magenta face paint, and I'm actually using it to define form and tone, kind of cheating a shadow-like appearance, but using the paint of the paint job, the makeup job, to do that. So that way I can still build some sense of structure and pull out details in the face, but I'm sort of relying more on colour to do that, rather than introducing significantly darker tones. And as you can see, I'm still going back and forth, playing around with different designs, I suppose, for the makeup job on her face. But we'll come back to this a bit later on.